Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Bateman, and I'm today's Storytime volunteer for the Rappahannock United Way. We are a local organization working really hard right now to help our community. We believe in the power of education for everyone. When you take the time to encourage children to read, you are giving them the gift of literacy that lasts a lifetime. Children who love to read are generally more creative and curious about the world around them, which can make them happier and more successful as adults. Today, I am reading The Lighthouse Cat. The old lighthouse stood proudly on the very edge of the rocks and sparkled its message over every mood of the sea. Blue seas lapped and whispered, green seas danced, and every once in a while black seas raged. The lighthouse was watched over by only a straggle of sugar cube cottages that balanced high up on the edges of the cliffs, crawling slowly down to the fishing village farther along the bay. You could scramble down the slippery rocks, but the only easy way to the lighthouse was by boat. At the very top of the old lighthouse, the great 24-candle lantern sent its light nearly as far as the sky. At dawn, yawning, the lonely lighthouse keeper scanned the wide ocean for ships. Keeping the candles lit was his most important job. Without fail, his pocket watch would remind him to check the lantern light and trim the candle wicks every half hour. It was well known that without the old lighthouse, the jagged rocky coastline would be littered with shipwrecks. Every Friday, if the sea was friendly, a boat from the fishing village would bring supplies to the lighthouse keeper. On one particular Friday, he piled the boxes high on the round kitchen table and realized it was already time to check the lantern. Up he climbed to where the 24 candles glowed obediently. Sometimes the lighthouse keeper would try to make things more interesting and gallop up, 3 steps at a time, or hop down on one leg. But usually he plodded. Down he went, thinking of lunch, and suddenly rolled head over heels, thump, all the way down. See all of his groceries? There he found himself nose to nose with something. The something had bright yellow eyes and was swirled with stormy colors of silver shadowy fish. When the something meowed, the lighthouse keeper chuckled and called him Mackerel, and then he laughed, and this was the best thing in this week's groceries. The two became inseparable. Little Mackerel would follow the lighthouse keeper everywhere. Up, down. Mackerel made friends with the seagulls and puffins and explored every nook of the rocky outcrop. He gazed at himself in the rock pools and quickly learned about crabs and slippery seaweed. Mackerel knew how to scan the sea, and when he spotted a whale or a boat, he would tap the lighthouse keeper's nose or jump onto his shoulder. Every night, without fail, the two of them would go up to the very top of the lighthouse, watch the night seas, and keep the candles burning. Sometimes, on sunny days, they would add another coat of paint to the lighthouse's red and white stripes, or sit on the very edge of the rocks and watch for dolphins. When the tide was really low, they would scour the beach and collect driftwood so that on stormy days, the lighthouse keeper could set to work on his curved and round furniture. Once they even found a message in a bottle. The lighthouse keeper loved his lighthouse with its round rooms. Now he whistled and was never even the tiniest bit lonely. With Mackerel, the lighthouse was the best and only place in the world, and still without fail, they would check the lantern light every half hour. Every day and every night was the same, except for one. It was known and feared that in times of terrible storms, the candles could blow out. One dark night, the black clouds gathered speed and whisked through the heavens. The sea leapt in a frenzy at the command of the storm. The waves rose ever higher, and the moon kept blinking as if it was buffeted by the wind. In one huff, The wind gathered all of its strength and blew out the candles in the lighthouse as though they were on a birthday cake. Now the lighthouse stood blind as the wind spiraled delightedly around. Shivering, Mackerel gazed hard out to the sea, watching a small fishing boat disappear and reappear through the mountainous seas, ever drifting toward the jagged-toothed rocks. What was that two flashing eyes at him from the boat? Where was the lighthouse keeper? For an instant the moon lit up Mackerel's yellow eyes, and he fled down, down, down. Then, out on the rocky outcrop, Mackerel saw the lighthouse keeper frantically waving a lantern. But the wind blew that out too, like a feather. Mackerel knew what he had to do. He sped up, up, up to the top of the lighthouse and caterwauled and screamed at the top of his voice to the heavens. For a moment the wind stopped to listen. Mackerel's yells reached the twitching ears of every cat sleeping in the cottages dotting the high cliffs. Then 11 cats, also caterwauling and screaming, came slipping and sliding, running, jumping, and tumbling down the cliffside. In the chaos, plant pots crashed, fishing nets unraveled, and onions and potatoes bumped down the cliffs after them. Within minutes, 11 wet and wailing cats had sped up, up, up to the top of the lighthouse. Mackerel was waiting one by one. Each jumped up next to him and gazed at the thrashing fishing boat. All 12 cats called to the moon, and again the wind stopped to listen. The clouds parted, and the moon peeped through and reflected in the cat's eyes. At the very moment the lighthouse keeper looked up in desperation, he saw 24 little lights at the very top of the lighthouse, where the lantern should shine. Surely the fishing boat must see them. Up, up, up the lighthouse keeper ran. He watched wide-eyed. He hoped. He prayed. Then very slowly the little fishing boat turned miraculously away from the rocks. Again Mackerel saw the two flashing eyes back at him from the boat. The 12 cats all looked around them and smiled. Much later, in a tumble-down cottage, another cat smiled too, and warmed herself in front of a fire. The village people never knew about their cats that night. They still talk about the great storm and how their cats slept for a whole day and night afterward. What would have happened had the great lighthouse lantern blown out, they wondered. Little did they know. By Friday, when the sea was all its iridescent shades of blue again, the boat turned up with supplies. Mackerel felt sure he had seen the boat somewhere else, and when a cat the color of night with flashing eyes looked out and smiled, he knew where he had seen those eyes. Now every night, whistling twice as loud, the lighthouse keeper still sits with Mackerel and his new friend. Together they scan the seas and watch the glow of the great lantern creeping far and wide as the sun sets and the moon rises. The end. Thank you for listening to my story today. Parents, if you are interested in learning about how United Way is helping our community right now, or maybe how to get help, please visit our website at rappahannockUnitedWay.org. Thank you.